Hello Shane, it's Chris here from Phoenix Engine Management. Just doing your quick testing video for your GS430 3UZ-FE speed going into an IS200 with a J160 6-speed automatic gearbox. So we've got the whole half cut here wired up. This is your harness and it's all plugged into the standard location. So you've got your 3 plugs down in there, ECU plugs, and your patch resin that goes into the standard IS200 ECU plugs there. Alright, so it's all on the motor as it should be. Alright, we didn't get your sub harness to test that, so we're just using our own to test that one. So that's the only thing that we can't test today. And we're using our test pedal here. Obviously your pedal harness will be labeled up to attach to your pedal. Alright, so we're going to go through a couple of procedures for testing today. So you can see, starting from the top, we're going to look at the ambient temperature, the dash lights, the OBD2 connection, the speed sensor, the reverse switch, the temp gauge, that's for the cluster. And then we're going to start the engine up. So when we do that, we'll obviously the drive-by-wire works, we'll rev it up and make sure that works. We'll use our tech stream to test the VVT-i solenoids, the tach, so we can see the tach is on your dash. And we're using a little converter to convert it from the 4-cylinder signal coming from the 3UZ to the 6-cylinder required for your dash. Okay, obviously injectors and coils will work if it fires up, and we've got the starter circuit again, it'll work if it cranks. ACIS, so that's acoustic control induction system. It's this little valve at the back of the motor here. So once she starts up, after a few seconds she'll pop down. So once I start it up, we'll come back around here and make sure that this is popped down. Okay. MAF, so we're testing the MAF. We've got it in our air pipe there. Obviously she won't start if the MAF isn't working, so we'll know that immediately. And then we'll check all of the current codes. So at the moment, because it takes so long for this machine to load, I've actually loaded it up already for you. Okay, so we'll go back, I'll do function select so you can actually see that it is selecting GS430 and picking it up on the system here. So our tech stream is actually connected inside here. So this is your OBD2 plug. This is the one that's under in your driver's footwell. All right, so again, that's why we got a half cut here, so we can test everything as though it was in your car. All right, so I'm going to go turn the ignition on now. We'll come back, make sure the lights of the dash are on, and we'll start by looking at the ambient temperature. So, all right, so key in the ignition, turn it on. All right, now if we're shooting in 30 frames per second, we may get something in there. You can sort of see 12 degrees. But anyway, I'm going to insert a picture across the screen. Hopefully now it comes up and it'll show you what it actually is there. All right. So we'll move back around to the cluster. And as you can see, we've got all our lights that should be working. So we've got our check engine light in the corner. We've got our battery for the alternator. We've got our oil pressure light all working there. And you'll see once we start it up, obviously those will all go out. Okay. So moving over to the OBD2 machine. So I'm just going to go into function select, system select. Just so that you can see there, hopefully it comes out crystal clear that it's a GS430 that it's picking up as. Alright, obviously we're interested in the engine and the powertrain. So I'm going to bring it back here, and I'm actually going to, there's one thing I didn't list down that I do want to show you, is the actual AC. So the AC magnetic clutch relay. I'm going to go into that. Now you should see that when I test this, boom. So hopefully I'm just going to turn it off and on again, and you can hear the magnetic clutch relay clicking. Okay, so that indicates your AC system will work as long as all the system is intact. So your condenser, you've got pressure in the system, your pressure switch is working, everything is working, it'll work just fine. Okay, so we can see a little sanity check there. So we can see obviously we've got coolant temp 29, intake 21, throttle position 15. I'm just going to move the throttle a little bit. I'll take it. Alright, so you see it goes all the way up there. Okay. So that's absolutely fine. And we're just going to go into the DTCs here. So you'll see obviously the automatic transmission codes are gone. Well, as a matter of fact, we've got 0 codes. Okay. So even though we've got no transmission attached, obviously we've got 0 codes for that. Alright. So what I'm going to do now is we're going to go look at the gearbox side quickly. Alright, so first thing we're going to do is we're going to test the speed sensor. So this is your gearbox harness here. You can see it follows down here, comes along here and it comes out here. So it'll come down here and over to your gearbox. All right. So what I'm doing here is, this is basically one of our tacho devices. It actually has the ability to put out a signal so guys can find their tacho signal if they're playing behind their dash with their wires. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to quickly put it in test mode. So just bear with me a second. Okay, so now the system's going to generate a signal. So you can see now your speedo is on 0. And I'm going to see if I can point the camera at the speedo while I plug that in. And hopefully you can sort of see it, but I will zoom in. There you go. Okay, so that indicates that your speedo is working. Alright, so that should be all fine. And then going over to your reverse switch, which is over here. All I'm going to do is bridge it, which is what the reverse switch would do, and we should hear there's your reverse beep. So that indicates the reverse circuit inside the car is absolutely fine. Okay, so we've got that speed sensor reverse switch. Okay, we move on to temp gauge. So as you can see now, it's obviously on ice cold. All right, so what I'm going to do is I've got a little temperature sensor, spare one hooked up here. Alright, so I'm going to put that down there for a second. Going to go over and get my blowtorch. I'm just going to quickly heat this up. So I can see that the dash is moving. Okay, there you go. It goes pretty quickly and heats up. So you can see the dash has started to climb now, so it's actually reading a temperature. And if I go onto data list here, you'll see we were on 29 degrees. And now we're on 66. Okay, so that's all the bits and bobs I wanted to test now with the engine off. Okay, so what I'm going to do is connect up the fuel pump. Okay, you can hear the fuel pump running there. Alright, just going to put on some ear defenders because it's quite loud, so just bear with me a second. Okay, so once it's running, we're going to check the drive-by-wire is working again, just for revving the motor. We're going to use the OBD, the tech stream, to test the VVT-i solenoids. We're going to look at the dash for the tach. Obviously all of these will be indicated working by the fact that it's running. Alright, so in a second it's going to be loud, and you're probably not going to hear me, but here she goes. Okay, so you can see all the lights on the dash have gone out now. We've got an RPM signal over there. Hopefully you can hear me. You can see the valve has gone down now on its own. Okay. So now we're going to test those VVT-i solenoids. And you're going to hear the engine make a really weird noise when I test it. So let's go. That's bank 1 done. Let's go into bank 2. Alright, we're going to exit out of here. And now that she's running, we're going to check trouble codes. And we've still got 0 codes. Alright, so that's pretty much all the tests gone through. So from your perspective, it's obviously you're just going to get it back. You're going to put the ECU into your case. Now, this is obviously the same shape as an IS200 ECU, the 3UZ one. If you're lucky enough to get your hands on an IS200 ECU box, this will actually slide straight in without any problems whatsoever. And you just remove all these this white frame inside here. And you can take all the connectors out, push it into the box and swap the box over. If you can't, you can actually just grind this little lip off. There's a lip all the way around with a bit of foam on it here. If you grind that lip all the way flush, she will actually fit straight into an IS200 gearbox, into an IS200 ECU box. Okay. The other thing you're going to obviously connect is your starter wire, so you should still have this on your motor. So that's going to come out there. It's going to go over to a little sort of lip, and that goes straight onto the battery. So that should go on there like that. So that's my positive, my battery terminal. All right. You've got your earth that goes underneath your battery, attached to the chassis, comes underneath and goes to your block. Okay, and that's going to be your earth. Now, what I normally advise is if you look at the IS200 over here, there's actually a bolt. Okay, and that bolt is where the original earth was from the IS200 motor, and it came down to the sort of driver's side of the cylinder head. So you can take that down and attach it to one of these earthing points over here. So if you have a look here, you've actually got 1, 2, 3 earthing points over there. Top one is the small hole M6, that's for your harness, so you can actually see the harness coming in here. And you've got one on the other side here, comes out of the harness and goes into your M6 hole there, and you've actually got another earthing point over there as well. Okay. And then what you're going to have to do is your alternator. So your alternator is going to come from here, right? It's going to go along the subframe, and you're going to bolt it right here into your original fuse box. Okay, so that's where your alternator cable is, your main positive alternator cable. Everything else for your alternator is part of the harness. So you can see how we've got it plugged in here. Okay. Oxygen sensor on the other side. That should be all groovy. Alright, so in terms of your car, that's pretty much all you've got to do. The main starter cable and the alternator cable. Everything else is built into the harness. Everything else just plugs directly into the car itself. And obviously you lay it out, bolt it down, and then boom, you're ready to go. Okay, so I think that pretty much covers everything. Hopefully it's going to be a really smooth process when you get it along. It should just literally go in and plug in exactly like I've done it here. Alright, so thanks for watching. And yeah, it's time to get this in a box and get it on its way to you. Alright, Shane, thank you very much. Bye-bye.